My name is Eddie, and I am a therapist in New Jersey who specializes in stress, anxiety, PTSD, and trauma. And today I wanted to record a video about therapy and why I go to therapy and some of the things that you should look for in a therapist when looking for one. Um, there is an overabundance of people in need of therapy and not many therapists to go around. And so people often wonder, why go to therapy? Why see someone? I can just kind of talk to my friends, or I can talk to my spouse, or I can, call my cousin, or, everybody sort of poo-poo sometimes the value of therapy. And part of it is just not understanding. Part of it is just the misconceptions that people have about therapy. There's also a stigma to therapy because it means that you have to admit that something is wrong, and we don't like to admit that things are wrong. We want to sort of present that everything is perfect, but really, therapy is a space to talk about your issues and to talk about your problems and to really focus on making change that is sustainable and really will foster your well-being. I wrote a blog about why therapy is important and some of the things to look for. So I'm going to be referencing that a little bit, but really, the thing about therapy is when you're talking to someone, a family member or a friend or a spouse, there is a relationship that exists that if you allow yourself to say something that is either hurtful or bothersome, or you're expressing things that you truly feel in your heart, you have the ability to impact that dynamic and impact that relationship, right? If you start talking about how you hate mom, or how something that your spouse does really annoys you, the person who may be the recipient of that may feel different, or feel some type of way, or feel defensive, or feel offended by something that you have said. And so it becomes very difficult to share those things. In a therapeutic relationship, the point is to be able to have that safe space to really identify and explore what you're feeling, why you're feeling those things. Is there anything you can do with those feelings that allow you to hopefully feel better? I think as a therapist, because people have, preconceived notions of what happens, they sort of say, oh, you listen to people's problems all day, or like, that's not a big deal, or what do you really do? Like, you just sit there and like listen, and you have to laugh because you think to yourself, okay, like that's what you think, but really, I value my profession. I value holding the space for someone to really say what they need to say and to be heard and to be validated and to be acknowledged. And so my role is to just be the keeper of your stuff, right? I am the vessel with which you can dump all of your stuff, and then I can help you navigate that stuff so that you feel better. So again, it is a varied process. It is a process. It is something that you really should try to take the time to think about, what you want to get out of therapy, asking yourself if you're ready to change, ask yourself if you're ready to explore some scary things that may be happening with you, because I think a lot of people recognize that they don't feel well and they're tired of being sick and tired, but then to acknowledge it and to go see someone and then to be expected to look at yourself in the mirror and change is scary. And so that also can be a barrier, or that can also be something that keeps people from engaging in the therapeutic process because they're scared. They're scared. Once you see something about yourself or someone else in your life, it's very difficult to unsee those things, especially when you admit them to yourself or to another person. So, recognizing that that change is a process and that it may be difficult, and giving yourself the grace to understand that will allow you to make tremendous progress in therapy. One of the things that I talk about in therapy is the investment in yourself. So therapy can be expensive, especially if you're paying out of pocket, if you're paying, cash pay, and people sometimes balk at that number when they're told an hourly rate. And I have to let people sit in that space of, this is the hourly rate. And I'm okay with that number, whatever my number is, because I know what value I'm providing there. But I also recognize that there's some sticker shock for people with therapy, because they just think it shouldn't be this expensive. And I can't argue with people about it, but I often think to myself, especially as a therapist, when I've worked with thousands of people, and they tell me that, like, oh, I just spent $10,000 on season tickets for something, or I spent all this money for my kids' soccer, or I spend all this money on vacation, and I do the, and you find the time and the money to prioritize these things that are important. Vacation is important. Your kids' activities are important. Your love of sports, or whatever you're passionate about, the theater, all of those things are important. And so we can make time and effort for those things. But the thing that I always say is that the therapy in yourself, the investment in yourself, is priceless. And so if spending that money for a year, whether it be $5, $6, $10,000 for a year of therapy, but that you feel good about yourself and you feel good about life and your mental health is on point, to me that is priceless. But it is an investment, and it is something that you have to look at it that way, so that you do the work, so that you get out of it what you put into it, right? And for some people, it may be, I just want to pay somebody to listen to me talk and vent and bitch about my significant other. That going in, and it makes you feel better, and it's like money well spent to do that. That's great. If you're going in with the hope of like gaining the courage to implement some change or what have you, if you're paying someone, and me, therapist, you're paying someone, and that person is giving you feedback or insight, and you're not following it, recognizing that you're not possibly taking the time to invest in yourself is something to look at and something to consider. The other thing that I tell people about therapy is, again, do your research, do your homework. I understand that, you may be given a list of therapists that are in network, or that you go to a Psychology Today, or you ask a friend like who they see or what have you, and you just kind of like pick someone haphazardly because they either have your availability, or they are in your network, or all of those things. The thing that I say to a person is, really, again, I see myself as the holder of your stuff, as the holder of your secrets, of your trauma, of your anxiety. And so you need to feel comfortable sharing those things with me, right? And as a therapist, I know my clients don't tell me everything. They don't tell me the truth about everything. They don't tell me everything because they don't know me. They don't trust me. They don't necessarily want to face these things about themselves. And so, building trust is important. And so you need to feel like, maybe I'm not there with this person yet, but I think I might be able to get there. If you find yourself looking at a profile and saying, I don't think I would ever tell them about like how I hate my husband, then that therapist is probably not right for you, because there's something innate in your gut that's telling you you're probably not really going to do the work with this person. And so it becomes a waste of your time and your energy and your resources to engage in it just because they could see you at the time that they want to see you. Sometimes there's no alternative to that, and we recognize that. But if you can, do your research and find someone that fits well for you. Third, ask questions. Ask a lot of questions. Again, the role of consultation, which most therapists offer, is to try to understand what the therapeutic process is like, especially if you've never had therapy before, to explore maybe some of your misconceptions or your perceptions, or what it is you want to get out of therapy. What are the things that therapist might offer? Asking about, you might have seen something on social media about a certain way that somebody does something, and you say like, oh, I think I might like CBT or EMDR, or like acceptance and commitment therapy. Ask those questions. You see a lot of things sometimes, and you don't know what it really means. You think you know, but part of allowing yourself to engage in the therapeutic process is knowing what you're getting yourself into. Asking, what is therapy with you like? What is the process? How long do you think this stuff will take? How long? What happens? Like, do we do this every week? Do we do what? Like, I don't want to do this. Like, asking yourself those questions and asking the therapist during a consultation will allow you to feel more comfortable, one, in the therapeutic process and with the therapist. So ask questions. The other thing is, I alluded to a little bit, is that, be prepared for long wait lists at this time. There are, again, lots of people, not a lot of therapists, and especially in 2022 after, coming out of COVID and just the amount of stuff that we've all been through. Therapists are taking a break and they're leaving the profession, or like with a lot of areas which we all recognize in the Great Resignation, like that even therapists are burning out and taking a break or sort of stepping away, or they're limiting their caseloads to focus on certain population. So be prepared for long wait lists, and in that, I think that as therapists, we try to put content out there and resources and things that, that allow you to try to maintain your mental health while you're waiting to see a therapist. So think about that. Be prepared for that. Have realistic expectations. This is also a big one in terms of people who've never had therapy before. They sort of think like, oh, I'm just going to see somebody like 2 or 3 times and I'll be great. Part of that expectation has been created in some ways by like how you get to therapy, whether it's like through your insurance company or your EAP, where they're only going to pay for 8-10 sessions, and you think, oh, I'll be cured in 8 or 10 sessions. And so like, what do you mean you're like, you could be in therapy for a year or more than a year? Like, what? That's a little bit crazy. But the thing that I always try to explain to people is that, again, change is not a linear process. It is back and forth. You're going to have highs, you're going to have lows. You're going to have success, but you're also going to have failure, and you're going to make mistakes, and you're going to, it's going to be a road, right? It's going to be a challenge. And so, that might take some time. It may be that, unfortunately, insurance will only cover 8 to 10 sessions, but that doesn't mean your problem's going to go away in 8 to 10 sessions. So I think you have to be prepared to recognize that this is not an easy process, or this is not a linear process, and that you should be a little bit more realistic about how long change is going to come. Again, everyone is different. Everyone, there's different types of therapies out there. I know that there's like solution-focused therapy that I think focuses on 8 to 10 sessions, because they pick one particular thing and focus on the solution for one particular thing. For me, because I look at a holistic approach to someone's life, I recognize that like we're going to be sort of addressing various things in your life. And if you are someone that has had trauma from childhood, that process may take longer, because we're having to really dig deep into things from the past to help you heal and get yourself to like a good healing place where even you're able to do things in the present that allow you to function well and to function in a healthy space. The other thing is to understand the difference between paying out of pocket and out of network, and paying through your insurance. So paying through your insurance is a great way to have access to a lot of different therapists, because again, in network, if you may have an abundant choice of therapists, but recognize that when you use your insurance, they have the ability to request your notes, or to request your diagnosis, or to dictate whether or not they're going to pay for your therapy. The thing about insurance is that you have to have a diagnosis in order to be reimbursed, which, if you have no problem with having a diagnosis of anxiety disorder or PTSD or major depressive disorder, if you have no problem with that, then you might be fine. Again, insurance always has the ability to say, hey, we want to see your therapist case notes because we want to decide if we want to continue to pay for therapy or not. And you know that going in. Even if you see someone who's out of your network, if you're going to reimburse for insurance, then you're going to, subject yourself to, again, a diagnosis or some insurance, representative saying, we don't know that we're going to reimburse you for that. When you pay completely cash pay out of pocket, some people like that, especially if they have, like really important jobs where it's very sensitive. They don't necessarily want either a diagnosis, or they don't meet the criteria for certain diagnoses, or there's the risk of someone asking questions about what it is you're working in therapy. I know, like a lot of military, they do not want a diagnosis because that might affect their security clearance. So they may not want that, but recognizing, the costs. Again, if you use your insurance, you get a lot of access, and it's really affordable, as opposed to if you go out of network, you may pay up front, you'll get reimbursed, but then you're engaging in the process. And then if you're going cash pay, you're paying out of pocket, and you almost have like the privacy where someone's not necessarily going to be looking into your files or asking questions or asking, why you're doing certain things with the therapist. So know that ahead of time. I talked about change. Huge thing that I talk about in therapy is being prepared for the negative feedback that you may receive in your life. So there is partially a stigma. If you tell people you're in therapy, there is this recognition that someone's going to say, oh my God, like you're crazy. You're in therapy? Like, oh my God, I'm going to look at you differently because you're crazy. You're not only going to get that, possibly, but you're going to get the person that says, I don't want you changing, because you changing might affect me. If you develop some courage, or you develop boundaries, or you develop a sense of this is not acceptable anymore and I'm changing, or I'm quitting my job, or I'm leaving a relationship, those things have an ability to impact other people. And just by nature, I think two people don't like change. And if a family member or a loved one, maybe intentionally, but oftentimes not, sees you making change, their level of discomfort with your change is possible, and they may not like it, and they may tell you that they don't like it. And you have to be prepared for people to push back against your efforts at change, right? Whether it's, again, leaving your job. Well, who's going to pay the bills? What are we going to do for insurance? What do you mean you're going to follow your dream? How are we going to pay the bills? Or you're focusing on your health. Well, what we're going to eat carrots now? Like, I don't like eating carrots. I like going to McDonald's. Oh, you tell me you can't come over at midnight on Tuesday whenever I call you because you actually want to get sleep? You're being selfish. Like, there is a myriad of reasons why people may be uncomfortable with your efforts at change, and you need to be prepared for that. And recognizing that we all are subject to, if a loved one tells us something that is hurtful or upsetting to them, we don't want to hurt them, or we're not intentionally trying to like set boundaries to hurt you, but recognizing that I'm putting myself first, that's the work. That's the goal of working with yourself and your therapist, to say, I have got to put myself first. I am worthy of getting these things, or dreaming, or having the best for myself and ultimately for my family, and being able to navigate those tough storms if they happen. So being prepared for that, recognizing that, will allow you to, if you see it, sort of say, well, I did know that they might have a problem with me learning to say no, or me setting a boundary, or me choosing to put me first. So that's another thing. Finally, I would say, it's okay to break up with a therapist. If a therapist is not working for you, do not stay in a situation where it is not working for you. Ultimately, the therapist, if they're a good one, wants you to be at your best, and they want to see you be successful. It does not serve me. I mean, okay, I guess, because I will collect a paycheck, but it doesn't doesn't serve me for you to be working with me if you're not getting out of it what it is you really want, which is to be better and to get better and to be successful. So it's okay to break up with the therapist. And you know, whether you do it in a way that you like, Eddie, I just don't see this gelling, or I'm moving out of the country and I can't see there, I can't, like, you hope that you would go the more honest route and sort of say, I don't think this is working. I think most therapists won't take that personally. But recognizing that if something is not working for you, honor yourself and honor the process and say to yourself, this isn't working for me. And find yourself someone who will work for you, because again, there is somebody out there that is probably waiting to take your slot that might be a better fit for the therapist, and you may be a better fit for someone else, and you should honor that. Life is too short to stay in things and do things that just do not work for you, like that, especially when you're paying for it. It's like, to me, it's hard. It's hard. I get it, but I also am saying you have permission, if this is not working, to let go. So that's all I have for today. I mean, it's a lot to take in, but hopefully I give you some things to think about and allow yourself to recognize that, therapy is great. I obviously I'm a therapist. I think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. So I am always a proponent for it. I always say, ask questions. And if you have any questions for me, shoot me an email, shoot me a comment, and I will try to respond to all the comments in a timely manner. But this has been great. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.